Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day, no matter where they are. So this is the second stream of the day. Earlier, guys, I came on and I did a whole um, episode of the a whole stream, or now it's up as we speak. Second episode of Secret Invasion. So that is up for everybody's viewing pleasure. And so I was really tired the other day. I just couldn't do it. So that's what happened there. So right now, okay, as for the last few weeks, I've been doing a Mission Impossible rewatch series. So I've gone through every single film up to date. Okay. So I started this quite a long time ago, but okay, for the last couple of weeks, I've been doing this on a Friday. So a couple weeks ago, you had Mission Impossible 3. Then last week, you had Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And we have two films left. We have Rogue Nation and Fallout. And I'm going to be covering Fallout today. I'm sorry, Rogue Nation. I'm going to be covering Rogue Nation today. And then next week, guys, come back on Friday. And I'm going to be finishing up the series leading all the way up to the 14th of July, and that is going to be the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And I'm going to be doing a spoiler cast for that during that weekend. Okay, so this is, as I said before, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And so I forgot how good this movie was. I mean, I've seen all of them, but it's been a minute. And I forgot how really, really good this movie was. So this was done way back in 2015. So you're talking 8 years ago, which is incredible to think. Um, that being said, it's still one of the best action, not only films of all time, but I would say in this franchise. So I mean, there's a Mission Impossible. Okay, one of them is the the stunts. I mean, Mission Impossible is just known for the stunts. They have been and will always continue to be known for them. Okay. Then you have the toys. Okay. The toys, the gadgets they use, you know, and then finally you have the secretary or whoever is the main guy leading IMF. We didn't really have one, but a leader of the CIA in Alec Baldwin. He will eventually be heading up the IMF for Fallout. So as it stands right now, with all of the movies made, okay, Mission Impossible is it has 6 films. I'm sorry, it has 6 films, not including Fallout, and worldwide it's made $3.5 billion. It's made 1.1 here in the States, and it's made the other 2.5 overseas, and just about it's averaged. The budget has averaged, okay, $159 million. Now I say average because this last film ballooned to $290 million. Okay, it's huge budget. You can see where they put it too. Um, so when I say average, that 290 is the high, 80 is the low. Okay, and it's gone up on every single movie. Okay, so back in 1996, the budget was $80 million for it. Then in 2000, it went up to 120 million. Then in 2006, it went up another 30 million to 150. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol actually was right around 145. Rogue Nation, the one I'll be covering today, was 150, and then Fallout was 178. This one is $290 million coming up in a couple weeks. And so this is actually so Ghost Protocol actually made a little bit more than uh, Rogue Nation worldwide. So Rogue Nation made 694, okay, worldwide, and Protocol and Fallout made 688. So they're right around the same, and Fallout just blew it away with almost $787 million. But enough about numbers. So at least those numbers for the time being. So as I said, this came out in 2015, and it was really a winner after what Ghost Protocol did, because Ghost Protocol was one of those films that it had all of the things you wanted, right? It had the action, it had the gadgets, it had a little romance, it had everything you wanted. Um, and this was so. As I said, there's a couple of things that really make Mission Impossible Mission Impossible. Number one, the gadgets. Number two, the action. And number three, the stunts. Those three things, at the end of the day, really make up Mission Impossible, because you're not going there to see acting, right? I mean, I love Tom Cruise, I love him to death, but this is not his. This is his finite. This is his genre, but you're not going there to see Simon Pegg do fantastic acting, or Vin Rhames, or whomever it is. So, but so speaking of the cast, okay, so here's a picture of one of the cast. This was, obviously some of the stars. You had on the left was Simon Pegg playing Benji. In the middle, you had Tom. To his right, you had Rebecca Ferguson, which, by the way, she carried this movie. I'll get into her a little bit later with Ilsa, but she carried this movie. I loved her in this role. And then, of course, on the far right, you have the director who's been working now with Tom for the better part of 15 years, and Christopher McQuarrie. And so he basically wrote and directed. He wrote the screenplay for Rogue Nation, and he directed it. And it just was a marvelous film. So here's a little more of the extended cast. Okay. Um, so once again, you have, you know, Tom and Simon and Rebecca there. Okay. McQuarrie, Q to the left. So you have Sean Harris on there to his left. Okay. Then you have one of the proxies of Lane, and then you have a couple of the producers on the far left and right. So I mean, still a stellar cast. Everybody's coming back now. Not pictured there, and who was in this film. So a little nugget is Vin Rhames, who makes an appearance. Okay, and as I said, Alec Baldwin. So Alec Baldwin and Vin Rhames are not pictured there, but they do make an appearance in this film. So let's just start out with what I thought about this. So as this film kicks off, just like a James Bond movie or just like an action movie, you want action. So what is the big stunt? Okay. So there are two big stunts that Tom does. It's Ethan Hawke does in this film. Okay. The first is hanging off the side of a plane. Now, anybody who's anybody looks into this and goes, "Oh my god." And this was just an incredible stunt. It was just an incredible stunt. Okay, so if you look into the behind the scenes stuff of this, okay, and how they, because I'm fascinated with movies all the way around, not just what's on camera, but how they shot something. So when you see how they shot this and they filmed this, it's amazing. First of all, they had to get permission from Airbus, because this was one of only one or two or three of these planes in the world at that point. So it was kind of like a prototypical prototype. Then you're talking about safety. How are we going to do this so Tom is going to be absolutely safe in doing this film? And that being said, what they did was, it's fascinating, but they put the camera under the wing, away from the propeller, and they were able to film this. And he, you don't see it there, okay, but because it was done with CGI and they did it out, but there's a wire there, right there, okay, to nearly the left. It's incredible. He probably gets a couple of, I would say, about 1,000 feet in the air. Of course, he still has to breathe, and be able to say his lines. So they did this. They did this particular sequence like 5 or 6 times. Okay, because of course Tom Cruise is a perfectionist and everything else, and he wanted to really get it down perfect, and that's what they did. So I mean, just like a James Bond film starting with an action sequence, that's exactly what this did. So this was a mission that they had to, get the nuclear weapons off of this plane and everything else. And it was pretty funny. So Benji opens the doors and everything else. Yeah, it is. So Flesh says, wow, that's a lot of times. Yeah, it is. It is. So you got to remember, I mean, Tom Cruise is a perfectionist, and what he does is he wants to make it right as many, he's a thrill seeker too. So that being said, he loved doing this. And so they all took a picture, and yeah, it was a fantastic, fantastic set piece. But we start out. Usually the stunts are in the middle somewhere. This was right off the top. So they wanted to make it, and this is what I mean about Tom Cruise. Okay? He wants to make it bigger and bigger and bigger for the audience because he loves doing it. Okay. So after that's done, the nuclear weapons are safe. You know, um, he's in London, so he goes into this record shop and he's speaking with the employee who's, so it's an agent. Okay. And so he's going to go get his next mission. And that's the other cool thing I like about this. Okay. Every single movie, it's always something different. Always. So anybody who remembers Mission Impossible, he gets his mission from the tape recorder at the end. Okay. In Mission Impossible 2, he gets it from the sunglasses. Okay. And then he gets it from the camera. In Mission Impossible 3, it was a different way. In Ghost Protocol, it was a phone, an old phone in Moscow. And that's the prank too, right? So because he said, well, this will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Well, like the phone didn't self-destruct. So he went back and he banged it and he broke, it smoked. Okay. In this particular one, which, is always cool, as he goes into a record shop. And so, as I said, he's conversing with the employee and she hands him a record. And in this particular one, so he puts the needle on the recorder, and then the biometric thing pops up. He does it. Hello, Mr. Hunt. And so basically he's talking, the mission says the nuclear weapons that you had saved, basically the biohazard weapons you had saved, okay, basically confirms that there was this something called the Syndicate, and we are the Syndicate, and your mission, and basically your mission, should you choose to accept us, is stop us. And so subsequently, he gets trapped. He gets trapped in there, and it's one of those things. And then he's looking, and Sean Harris, who plays Lane, who, by the way, I think is the second best villain in this franchise. Okay, I think Owen Davies, Philip Seymour Hoffman's the best. This one here, Sean Harris, was awesome. He was awesome as Lane, and because he had a gravitas, he had a presence, he had an ambiance about him. Whenever you were around him, it was very, very tense. And subsequently, he holds it, a gun to the back of the head of the employee and shoots her. And so, so now he's actually right about everything. And so when all of that happens, then, he knows he's on the right track. And Benji, of course, who's working for the CIA at this time, basically gets, two tickets to the opera, and he gets involved, of course, because it's Ethan who does it. But nonetheless, so this is where Alec Baldwin really makes his first appearance. And yeah, so a couple of the notes. When we first meet Rebecca Ferguson's character, so Ethan is in a prison. Okay, he gets captured from the gas. Okay, and you have the bone doctor. So what makes this scene even more tense is there's no music and there's nothing to be said. When we see her character, she just slowly walks in. She slowly walks in with no dialogue. And she just starts placing her things on the table. The first thing she takes off is her shoes. Then she opens something up. She puts 2 or 3 little vials there, and the needles. They're going to inject into Ethan. One of them's truth serum or whatever it is. And it's building, and it's building, and it's building. And then you see the bone doctor come in, and of course he's a more physical guy. And so that in itself, and that's the other cool thing too. When you're talking about exchanges, one of the things, like, even here, I mean, his facial tics, even when he turns his head, it's like, okay, I mean business type of thing. And that's the thing. You don't have to say anything, and less is more. But yeah, so it's one of those things where once he helps her, she helps him escape. Okay, I'm not going to go beat by beat by beat because you guys have probably already seen the movie. And she's actually involved with the Syndicate so she's sent to Austria to kill the prime minister. So the whole fight sequence in the opera, unbelievable. How, it has a funny tone as well. And it just works all the way around. I think that they know when to mix it up as far as comedy, and they also know when to be very serious. And I think that that's an important thing when it comes to the tone of the movie. Like, how are we going to do this? So, as I said, when Ethan basically, so they go to raid his place, and he's not there. He's not there. So he has a camera. It reminded me of the scene like in The Equalizer. I don't know if you guys have seen this movie, but the bad guy basically is going to look into his apartment, and he's elsewhere, but he has all these cameras set up around the place. And what ends up happening is he's watching it on a tablet. And that's exactly what ends up happening. Meanwhile, Brant's looking, and he's basically saying, look at all this stuff. And so that is how they basically made it known that, hey, look, this is the Syndicate. So there's a lot of different things that they do in order to move the story along and make it fun too, and make it comedic, because you don't want a dry story and Ilsa having to lie to Sean Harris's character and everything else. So it's one of those things where I think that when you see it, it's always, I'll say this much. I'm kind of rambling. Once again, this isn't about acting. Okay? This is not about acting. You're going there to see the stunts. You're going there to see the comedic humor. And you're going to see the action. And so, once again, though, the gadgets make it all worthwhile. And that being said, Hey, Meadow, how are you? Glad you glad you could join us here. Yeah, I was just talking about Rogue Nation, and I'm not trying to go beat by beat because I know you guys have seen it before, but I also wanted to give you a little bit of background. So once they get away from the opera, I mean, it's just one of those tech things they have to throw her out. He has to throw her out of the car, okay, make it look like something else, and the lipstick was actually USB. And so you have a couple different stories. So you have Brant and Luther. Okay, they go to find Ilsa in Morocco. Okay, so and then you have Benji and Tom. Oh, thank you very much. Metal has just become a member. Thank you very much for that, Metal. I appreciate that deeply, and thank you very much. Um, that means a lot to me. Thank you very much for doing that. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think that this really understands, and they really underscore everything. They know they're in their prime here, so to speak. They know exactly what they're doing when it comes to, and Macquarie knows what to do. Um, as I said, Sean Harris was awesome as Solomon Lane. As I said, he was the second best villain, I think. That really, um, that really, I think Owen Davies was the first one, but I think he was the second one. So the second big stunt, as I said, they always like to do. Tom loves to do these stunts. The first stunt I showed you was the plane. The second was still. So when we see Elsa in Morocco, okay, um, one of the things that she was trying to do was hold her breath. So of course, Tom is, he loves these crazy things, and he jumps into this thing because that's the only way they could change the profile, because that's the only way they could get to the syndicate to get this thing. It's an amazing thing. And the second stunt was unbelievable. And it's always interesting to me. It's how they do the stunts, right? Because we always watch them and you go, "Oh my god, he did what?" But it's safety first, and that's what they talk about in every single one of these. Um, but then the chase, and I don't have pictures for everything, but the chase, and we see there's a 20-minute segment in Dead Reckoning that they've seen, and I'm sure you guys have seen if you watch the trailers. This chase, the editing of this chase is, and even the motorcycle chase. So you have two different chases. Okay, you have the first one, okay, and then you have the motorcycle chase. The motorcycles going back and forth and using um, GoPros and everything else. I mean, mind you, you got these stunt guys who are wearing these helmets, and Tom's just zipping along and like doing 80. And it's like, he's risking his life. He knows it though, right? Unbelievable. Um, the stunts though, the editing of the stunts, that's the cool thing. Because the edit is just so quick and has to be so on cue that it's one of those things where you don't do it right, then you've got to not to go back, but you got to go get that take again. And it's like, okay, how many times are we going to do this? And the fact that they only did this on like $150 million, I say only compared to what Reckoning is, but it's like unbelievable. And by the way, guys, they went to 5 different locations for this. They went to London, they went to Austria, they were Langley. I mean, granted, some of them were establishing shots, but still, you went to Morocco. Okay, so unbelievable. As I said though, and I was going back to, I mean, there are more pictures, but the whole character of Ilsa Faust is a complicated one, and that's what makes her so good. Because you have this character who we don't know at the beginning of the film, and we start to slowly dissect who she is. We find that she's former MI5 or MI6. She's currently or still there. But we also find that the British wanted her to implant her into the syndicate to try and flesh out everything. And so there are plenty of times where Lane is getting very impatient, like this scene where she misses and kills the she misses and doesn't kill the prime minister. And it's one of those things where have to see where her loyalty lies. And as the film goes on and on and on, we see it lean more toward there. And then, of course, she gets double crossed. When she actually, once they complete the stunt, okay? Once they complete the stunt, he's out cold. They complete the stunt. They go, and there's that motorcycle chase. And then she brings the disc to her handler. And her handler erases the disc because he's the one who created the whole thing. So there's the twist right there. And it's just unbelievable. And Ethan knows all of this stuff because he is always thinking a step ahead. And one thing Ethan is that's the thing that's going to be very fascinating to see in this film coming up. He's very selfless. Ethan Hunt is one of the most selfless characters out there. And Tom Cruise's character, because there's a scene where he essentially he gets the discs in that third act, that amazing third act, to where it's funny because in MI3, he calls Davey, he's like, you had 5 seconds left. You had only 5 seconds left to save your wife's life. So this is one of those things where it's like split second. So he has the discs. Okay. He does the impossible. Okay. And then he calls Lane and says, I have it. Where do you want me to meet you? So at that point, Benji, who gets captured. So there's that last meeting between Ilsa and Ethan in the hotel room, not hotel room, but the train station. And everybody's around her. And they grab Benji. And so they fit him with this bomb. And so he's wearing, you can't really see it here, okay? But in his eyes, okay, it's a biometric thing. So it's like a camera that's seeing Ethan. And we go back and forth between Lane and him. And it's basically a verbal joust. And he's like, look, here's $50 million. I'm going to give you $50 million to let him go. And he won't do it. He takes the money, but he won't do it. And he's a very selfless character. And, getting the fact that getting Benji out of his way and to save his friends, even though there's a good chance he might get killed himself, shows you what kind of character Ethan is. And this is so, of course, the one thing there is the red book or the red box. So, of course, the red box being the thing that, has all of this money in it. And let's face it, at the end of the day, he's just no more than a thief. But the only person that can open this box up is the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the only one that can open the box up. So they have to go get the Prime Minister. And how that's done, and, Brandt luring the actual director there, the CIA. And then you have, Hunley on the plane. They go to London. And basically, Cruise puts the mask on once again. This is fantastic. Once again, one thing that they did very, very well is they didn't overuse things. That was one of my biggest problems with Mission Impossible 2, was they used a mask 8 times. 8 times. And they only used it once here. And they talked about it and finally they did it. And subsequently, that whole sequence of how they get the Prime Minister and they open it up. He goes to the necessary meeting place, and Benji's that close away from losing his life. And so he has Lane tell him, Lane tells him the combination. He's like, this is me talking, not him. I told you, you take it too far one of these days. And so, but yeah, it's just so tense. And then meanwhile, you have Ilsa there, and Hunt says to her, look, if they come any closer, shoot me, because he's memorized the whole thing. And Lane Can't take that chance. Well, is he right? Is he wrong? So there's a whole chase that ensues. And just like in the beginning, the ending, a good story has to end the way it started. And that's exactly what it is. So they managed to lure Lane back to this place. And so Ethan slides down this hatch and Lane's standing over him. And he jumps down and he's like, face to face, just as you wanted, Ethan. And he's about to step forward and the door slams in his face. And Brant slams that one. And then there's one on top. And then it cuts to Bendy doing that. And then you just see Ethan walk in. Beautifully done with the lighting and everything else. And then Ilsa walks in. And the look on their face is priceless. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Solomon Lane. Mr. Lane, I want you to meet the IMF. And Benji cranks. He just doesn't say anything, just gives a nod over, cranks up the gas, and knocks him out. And that's just awesome and how they did that. And that was the running, not joke, but that was the thing with, in the beginning of the film too, Hundley wanted to dissolve the IMF. And then, of course, he's back there at the end saying, look, I want you to reinstate it. And, of course, the senators aren't too pleased about it. And the last scene you see is basically he says, welcome to the IMF, secretary. So we're going to have a new... So there really wasn't a secretary in this, but we're going to get a new one in Fallout, and that's Alec Baldwin. But this movie just keeps getting better. This franchise just keeps getting better and better and better and better. And they've raised the bar every time since Mission 2. Every single time. And part of it's the stunts too. No doubt in my mind. Part of it's the stunts. Because it's more of, what are they going to do next? What crazy thing are they going to do next? And Tom always seems to one-up himself. And whether he's diving into a thing of rushing water or hanging off the side of a plane, okay? Or in Fallout, he hangs from a helicopter. It's one of those things where, how much bigger can they go? I can't wait to watch Fallout now. I'm going to do it next week, but I can't wait to watch that because it's just one of those things where this franchise has really redefined what it means to be an action franchise. I mean, sure, you have like John Wick and Taken and all these. And that's why I always say Tom Cruise is like the last action star we have, or the last movie star we have. You're telling me anybody else could do all these things? I can't see that. So I can't wait to see Fallout next week. But obviously, I can't wait to see Dead Reckoning. But yeah, this is unbelievable. Metal says, at least it's not the Fast franchise. And you're right. You're right about that because at least there's continuity here, right? And the big thing about this franchise is, this being Mission, is they always one up the bar. They always do it better, bigger, and better. And you get a good cast, right? You always get a good cast. Like you always have. Tom Cruise and Ving Rhames are the only two people to have starred in or his co-star, but has made their appearance in every single one. Every single one. And you've had continuity for the last couple of films with Simon Pegg and Rebecca Ferguson, and so absolutely. And yeah, and there's that's the other thing, to your point. Tom does it all practical. He does it all practical because he knows the difference between CGI and practical. And I mean, whether it's Top Gun Maverick flying the planes practically, or hanging off the side of a plane, or jumping into a thing, and they're always trying to innovate, and they're always trying to do bigger and better things, and it's just awesome. It's one of the best casts around. I see him living there on screen. Yeah, definitely, definitely, because it. That's the thing. When you have a cast that keeps coming back and coming back, you feel for them. You get emotionally attached. And when they die, you're like, no. But I love this movie. Is it the best one out of the bunch? I mean, I got to be honest. I'm partial to Mission Impossible 3. Um, because I think that, yeah, I love on seeing on screen. Yeah, I think Mission Impossible 3, even Ghost Protocol. I mean, Ghost Protocol is really, and that's the thing. That is another key factor. Even though he didn't get credit for it, McQuarrie basically wrote Ghost Protocol, even though it was uncredited. And like this film here, okay. So this, it made $698 million. I'm sorry, $688 million worldwide. Okay, this is the second highest grossing film, or third highest grossing film. I mean, nearly by about $5 million from Ghost Protocol, but right around there. And I mean, the one I'm going to be doing next week in Fallout, okay, had made almost $800 million worldwide. That's what gives me the thought that this could be a $1 billion movie. But that being said, so it made almost $500 million worldwide, and believe it or not, it only made $55 million opening weekend. That's the crazy thing. It made only $55 million opening weekend. So, I mean, this is just, it's a franchise that's just, and mind you, domestically, okay, domestically, it's a fourth film that it only made $195 million here in the States. So you got to also remember that too. They're making better than Flash. Yeah. That's kind of a low bar though, Metal. No, I understand what you mean. Like, anything is better than a Flash. I mean, we look back on that now, but I mean, this is gonna be huge. This is I keep telling people, this is a chance to make $1 billion worldwide. I even said, one of my hot takes was, honestly, I could see Dead Reckoning getting nominated for Best Picture. I could. Because, and look, it's a reason I say this is because you have to ask yourself this question. Why did Top Gun Maverick, because we have no criteria, right? Why did Top Gun get nominated for Best Picture? Top Gun Maverick get nominated for Best Picture. Okay, why? Is it because it made $1.5 billion? Is it because it was a phenomenal film? It wasn't because of the acting, because there were no acting nominations. So what made it a Best Picture nominee? And I think it was a couple of things. Number one, the editing, which it actually did. Okay. Two was the screenplay, but it was the money. And it was the production value. And I think at the end of the day, if we start, look at the Avatar: The Way of Water, right? That was more for the visual than anything else, and it made a boat. I mean, they had to print money for that movie. But the point is, with everything around the Ghost Protocol, not Ghost Protocol, Dead Reckoning, with everything around Dead Reckoning, I could see it very easily getting a Best Picture nominee as far as 8, 9, or 10. Now, listen, we're halfway through the year already, right? Keep that in mind. So there has to be, I mean, look, there are going to be some absolute locks, okay? Oppenheimer's going to get a Best Picture nominee. Dune 2 is going to get a Best Picture nominee. Kill with the Flower Moon get a Best Picture nominee. Locks all day long, twice on Sunday. So that means there are 7 slots. Okay? There are 7 spots. There are 7 spots left. I think this could sneak in. I really, really do. And you have the goodwill of Tom Cruise. And you have the fact that this was a part 1. Okay? Because I don't think they're going to be able to. I find it hard to believe they're going to do part 2. May give that a Best Picture nominee. So I really do think it's going to. The legs must be disrupted by how packed the summer is. Yeah. So this right now, okay, we're getting to a point where so it's definitely quality over quantity. Okay. If you're not a, we've seen this throughout the summer and throughout this year. If you're not a quality film, you're not going to go anywhere. I mean, you take a look at Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay. That made $108 million opening weekend. It dropped 66%. It fell off like a rock. Take a look at Shazam 2. Okay. I always said that Shazam 2 was going to be a litmus test for the Flash. Okay. Shazam 2 was a disaster. Okay. It made $236 million worldwide. Worldwide. The Flash was a disaster. I'm sure it'll be on VOD, or it's going to be, it's pre-order it. You can pre-order it right now. As far as the summer is concerned, we kicked off the summer right now, and it had a huge thing. So, I mean, we have a couple of films out there that are continuing to make money. So, I mean, all that being said, it's I mean, right now, as of today, Guardians has made $833 million worldwide. That's the number 2 release. Believe it or not, to your point, Menno, Fast 10's made $690. So, I mean, Across the Spider-Verse just crossed $500 million. I mean, it's made $571. But the difference, here's the difference, okay? Here's the difference. These films that are not reviewed well and not taken well, they will not do well. And people they'll move on. Okay? So when you have something like a Guardians, that's why it won the 5th and the 12th, and that's why Spider-Verse went back and won the weekend this last weekend or a couple weeks ago, because the Flash was crap. And the same thing's going to happen with Indy. If Indy is not, I don't know what the numbers are projecting, but if Indiana Jones is not a good movie, okay, I'm not saying, I don't know one way or the other. I will go watch it tomorrow morning for you guys, so do spoiler cast. But if that's the case, you're going to have something where all of these other films are going to, keep going. I got one for you. Top Gun or Mission? You mean the first Top Gun? Are you talking about the first Top Gun, Metal? You also got the Marvels. Yeah, the Marvels. That's not, and luckily, to your point, they moved that back to November. Can you imagine if that was actually in July? So I think that's a huge movie in itself. You're right. Because the thing is, Captain Marvel made $1.1 billion. Okay, so yes, Top Gun or Mission? Ooh. That's a tough one. I would say Top Gun. I would say Mission. Because here's the thing. Top Gun was awesome. I'm not disputing it. It was this incredible movie. The thing is, Mission Impossible, you have to look at the time when that came out. That came out in 1996. And there were a lot of other bad TV adaptations, like The Addams Family, The Flintstones, Beverly Hillbillies. This was one of those that really started well and really kicked off Tom Cruise's second part of his career. I mean, he just did Jerry Maguire either that year or the year before. I would have to go. Now, the thing is, I'll say this much. I would pick Top Gun Maverick over Mission Impossible, the original Mission Impossible, because Cruise, what he did in that case was he was a cinematographer and everything was practical. But if we're talking about 1-to-1, and I think the other thing too is there's been 6 Mission Impossible movies. There's only been 2 Top Gun movies. So there's something to be said there. William in shambles. I'm concerned about the Marvels. I'm not too concerned. I mean, look, they had to do it. They had to move it just because of everything. Now, I could see your concern because, look, here's the thing. You have things like Wonka coming out in December. You have Dune 2. You have Killers of the Flower Moon. You have all of these things. But I just don't see it. Look, Miss Marvel was one of the best shows on Disney Plus. Okay? That was the right way to introduce the character for the Marvels. It's going to give them more time to do the CGI, the story, and everything else. And I think that, is it going to make $1 billion? No. I don't think it'll make $1 billion. And by the way, that's not the end all be all. But I think it's going to be a fun film. I think it's going to be a cool film. And I think it's going to set things up later on, especially now that we have other things going on. I'm concerned. No, it will be good. Just have faith. I think it will be good. And you got to ask yourself this question. Even if it does bomb, what is that, $500 million? Disney's going to be, or Marvel's going to be fine. Anything they make, you have to, and what I've always said is this, that you could only go 1-to-1, right? So you can only compare it to the first one. If you're comparing it to the first one, then yeah, it might bomb. Because that was an anomaly. That made $1.1 billion. But I'll say this. If it can make $750 million, that's a great for a sequel. So I agree, Miss Marvel was good. Yeah, so I think that was the right way to do it. And I think that's going to be, I think it'll be fine. And we've seen a trailer already, right? And the trailer looked really good. It looked funny. So I think once we start to see the second trailer, once that comes out, and who knows, we might get one in Comic-Con. Well, they've already said they're going to pull out, but that's the thing about a Marvel or anything. They can drop it at any time and break the internet. So, no, yeah, I agree. So, but yeah, so I want to absolutely thank Metal again for dropping the membership on that. That meant a lot to me. Thank you very much. And you're one of the core guys. You're one of the core people that has been here since the beginning and everything else. So I want to thank you for that because you know what it's trying to do and starting to grow. So thank you very much for that. Captain Marvel was coming off hot of the Infinity War. And yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the other thing too is, Metal, that everybody wanted to see it. Because don't forget, Ike Perlmutter, for what he would not let a Black Panther movie ever be made. He would not ever let a woman superhero lead. And what happened? They were both billion-dollar movies. So I think there's something to be said about that. So, all right. So that is Rogue Nation. This one is, it's a fun movie, guys. It's a really, really fun movie. You know. Hey, Dad, how are you? How are you? I was just talking about Rogue Nation earlier, and it's a phenomenal, phenomenal movie. I just watched it the other night. I can't wait to see Fallout because I really believe that this is probably, as far as stunts, absolutely number one. As far as villains, I would say number 2. As far as story, it's right up there. Um, I still think that you know Owen Davies is probably the best villain so far. I can't wait to see. As a matter of fact, I've pretty much okay. Now it's starting to come back to me. I was trying to think of the villain of Fallout, but now I kind of remember it. But yeah. So this is fun. So this one, and we got Fallout next week. So that's what I was going to say. First of all, as I said, Metal, thank you very much for doing that. Couple of things. Number one, I'm going to go see Indiana Jones tomorrow morning. It is almost 100 degrees outside, so I'm going to stay in for the rest of the day here. But that being said, I'm going to go see it tomorrow morning. Once I'm done, it will be an afternoon type of stream, and we're going to be doing I'm going to be doing a spoiler cast of um, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That's number one. Number two, Sunday, Ask Me Anything. Come back here. I'll figure out a time for that, and then you guys will be able to ask me anything you want. And yeah, then next week we have on Thursday. Okay, we're gonna have a couple shows during the week, and then next Thursday we're gonna do it all over again. We'll have Secret Invasion Thursday, Mission Impossible, Final Mission Impossible before Dead Reckoning, and then that's what we're gonna do for Thursday through Sunday, all the way through. Yeah, it's. I also hope you like it, but if it bombs, oh no, I think Kathleen Kennedy is done anyways. I think Kathleen Kennedy is done. So I think that if Indiana Jones doesn't do well, I think she's done. I think she's done. That's just my own personal thing. I can only imagine my own. Yeah. So I have a couple of. You've been in a couple of spaces, but every single person except 2 I've heard on Twitter said this movie's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it goes by like that. I mean, it's almost a 2-hour and 40-minute movie. So, and this is only part 1. And that was what McHugh said during the world premiere, and basically said, like, there was so much stuff we had to put it into 2 movies. So I can't wait to see that. Wait, what? No, I was saying I think that if Indiana Jones doesn't do well, okay, I think there's a chance she might leave. That's what I'm saying. Even though she has the new Star Wars movies coming out, because she's a fantastic producer. I'm not disputing that. However, you have to look at her track record. The number of directors that have come in, the number of producers that have come in, the number of writers that have come in. It's a revolving door. There's no, and that's why, like somebody like Gunn, for example, okay, he's solid. He's solid. And the thing is that he had a story. He had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he went through with it, and you see the results. I mean, as I said, Guardians has made almost $835 million this year. It's incredible. I mean, it's interesting because you look at some of the other movies. Ant-Man and the Wasp has made 476. John Wick, 427. Creed 3, well, I mean, there's kind of a drop off. So the top 10 movies going from 10 down or 10 up. Flash has only made $217 million. Creed 3, 275. Transformers made 347. John Wick made 427, and of course that's why they're making a 5th one. Ant-Man and the Wasp made 476. The Little Mermaid crossed $500 million, which is phenomenal to see. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, 571. Fast X, that catastrophe, made 690. And Guardians of the Galaxy made 833. And of course, you have the Super Mario movie making over $1 billion. So it's a pretty. It's be interesting to see. I don't know if you're going to see another $1 billion movie this year. I At least this summer. So Kathleen Kennedy doesn't care about the fans. She's all about money. Yeah, I agree with you. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see if there when the new stuff comes out and everything else. So I look. She was picked by Lucas to run it herself, so she has to know what she's doing to a certain extent. Did Fast X make more than Spider-Man? Yeah. As it stands right now, it's about $100 million more. So, but the key thing there is, so Fast X only made $145 million here in the States, and it made the other 545 overseas. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made $328 million here, and the other 243 across the pond. So there's something to be said about that, because you have people coming back and coming back and coming back, and this is what I was talking about, cannibalizing. If it's quality over quantity, if it's not a good, the week before is not a good film, that will just eat it up, and that's what's going on, and that's what happened with Spider-Verse, and that's what happened with Elemental. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But okay, so yeah, that's going to do it for this Mission Impossible film. I can't wait to watch Fallout. I'll do that next week. So guys, couple of things. I think I already know what I'm gonna do for. Don't forget, July is right around the corner, and the other thing too is brand new Perfect movie, right? So I was just flipping through the channels today, and I think I know what I'm gonna do for the Perfect movie, and that's the Tom McCarthy directed Best Picture winner, Spotlight. I know it's probably not the best thing to do during the summer blockbuster, but Spotlight is an incredible movie with a cast that is second to none. Michael Keaton, Liam Neeson, Rachel McAdams, Mark Ruffalo. Unbelievable cast. I mean, there are plenty more that are in there, but unbelievable movie. So I will be doing Spotlight for the Perfect Movies for July. And definitely. So speaking of July, I just put up the Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays it's kind of late this month, for June. But I'm going to be putting out a tweet later on tonight, and I want to get your input. I think I know what I want to do for Mob Mondays, and that's going to be the Untouchables. I had the notes, and if I have to, I'll rewatch it again. But I love that movie. And you know what? Never mind, because I don't want to watch that again. So I actually did watch it. So I'll let you guys choose what you want for Mob Mondays and Rewatch Wednesdays. I'll put a couple films in there. And so I know Metal, thank you again. I bottom of my heart. If you'd like to support me, you just come in. There's a couple ways you can do that. First and foremost, hit that like and subscribe button, guys. There's a ton of stuff on the channel. You know, we got people that are members here that know what I'm all about. You're also get all these perfect movies and everything else. That's the easiest way. If you like to do it monetarily, like Metal did today, and once again, I say thank you for the bottom of my heart, you can do it for a couple different ways. Dropping a super chat, okay? Or you can become a Metal member, okay? Just like Metal did. Or you can buy something from the store, whether it's a mug or it's a T-shirt or it's a hoodie or whatever it is. Yeah, and of course there's a Patreon. So Mob Mondays is $5 a month. Rewatch Wednesdays is $10 a month. You have all the description stuff there. Yeah, and you guys my core. You guys make this move. When I see great things, you're giving me feedback and everything else. This is what drives me. It's not about money, because I'm, it's only a couple bucks, and I thank you. You obviously believe in me that much that you're willing to invest a little bit in me, but I do this for you guys. I love movies. So, anyways, so what I will say is this: do the 3 things you need to do. Be safe, be careful, have a great weekend. Go see Indiana Jones. We'll be back here tomorrow talking all about it. All right, guys, have a great rest of the day, and I will see you later. I am David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye bye, guys.